Alright, so Sydney Sweeney's newest film, Immaculate. When I go into horror films now, I've just learnt to go in with zero expectation. Actually, I lie, I've learnt to go in with the expectation that it's going to be dog shit. Because modern day horror, especially big budget horror, 9 out of 10 times, it's shit, let's be honest. But thankfully, this movie was actually pretty good. But after the latest disaster that Sydney Sweeney starred in, I really hope that she was able to bounce back in this film. And my God, it might be just one of the best horror performances I've ever seen. She plays this character so well, and her performance, it makes you feel happy at times, sad at times, and my God, it makes you feel so fucking uncomfortable throughout, especially the last 10 minutes. This is easily her best performance. Granted, I've only seen, I think, 2 Sydney Sweeney movies, this one and Madam Web. I haven't seen that show that she stars in, I think Euphoria, I think it's called. I've only seen the 2, and she can really act. The resume looks pretty good. I've only seen 2. One's been terrible, not by her fault, by fucking... That movie was dog shit. I'm not even going to go into it. But this film here, when given a good script and a good story, she can clearly act. So one thing I was worried about with this movie is that it was just going to follow the same formula as all these religious movies do, where they go in, they're holy, there seems to be a demon, they use Christ, they fight it off. And it's very generic, and it's just overused. But this film went in a direction I really didn't think it would. I only saw the trailer once, but didn't remember what happened. All I knew is that Sydney Sweeney was playing a nun going into this. I'm not going to give much away, but essentially she gets recruited by this group of nuns, and when she gets there, she slowly discovers that there's some dodgy shit going on. And she ends up magically carrying a child, and they look at her like she's the Virgin Mary. But it's not as they seem. And at first, I thought that maybe that was the direction they were going. She really is like the second coming of Mary or something. But that is not the way it goes. There's some dodgy shit going on with the priests and the holy mothers, and it's wild. And throughout the film, you see her struggles. You see the way they treat her, the way they look at her like Mary, but treat her like scum. And it all leads to the last 10 minutes of the film, where she attempts to escape, and she has to give birth to this thing that she's carrying. And there's a scene in here in the last 5 minutes of the film, goes for about 2 minutes, and it's one cut, one take, and my God, I don't think I've ever felt so uncomfortable watching a scene before. The performance here by Sydney Sweeney is fucking unreal. The emotion she brings out during this scene, the way she makes you feel, it's crazy. Even if the rest of her performance was terrible, I still would have said her performance was amazing, just because of that 2 minutes. Even though I said I didn't expect this movie to go the way it did, I did expect certain characters to be evil. Like, as soon as you're introduced to them, you just know that they're not friendly. They come off as friendly, but you know that they're fucking dodgy, straight away. So for a horror movie, going in with no expectations, I left very pleased, very uncomfortable due to that last 5 minutes. But Sydney Sweeney's performance was amazing. The story was written well, didn't go the way I expected. And it wasn't a horror that just tried to rely on cheap tropes like a jump scare. I think there was one in here that actually did get me, but that was it. They didn't attempt to fucking scare the shit out of you every 3 seconds. What was going on in the film and the performances was enough. It just made you feel uncomfortable and eerie throughout. That was the horror aspect. So I think this was a really solid film. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. So if you've seen the film, let me know what you think, and thanks always for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.